Just curious? Story 1. Yeah, the effort ratio can be way off and you decide to test it to see if it gets reciprocated. I got a "you're lucky I decided to message first today. I don't normally do that. Yeah, that's not what I'm gonna spend my time on every day. Thanks very much." Story 2. Her ex called, and she actually listened to him when he told her he wants to talk to me because she's like, "It's my ex, and he wants to talk to you," while handing me the phone. I hung up and left. She clearly still had a lot to sort out. Edit. We were 17 or 18 at the time. They didn't have kids. They never lived together. I'd only been seeing her for a few weeks. We never spoke about our exes. I'd never met the dude or knew anything about him. It was just a weird situation, and I just thought about all the dramas that would follow. Story 3. Was tired of her seeking attention and validation from other men and always playing the victim card. Broke up and left without much explanation. Never replied to her apology later. Story 4. The girl was model good looking with a quirky personality. It turns out that quirkiness was actually a well-hidden mental illness. A few months in, she threatened to kill herself because I couldn't hang out on a particular day. In addition to a few other reasons, I went no contact. Story 5. There have been a few experiences in semi-chronological order. I met a girl randomly on a night out as a freshman. We hit it off and hung out a few times. However, I noticed that I was always the one to text her first. So after a date, I texted her the usual, that I had fun, I got home safe, etc., and decided to see if she would make the move to set up the next date. She never did. There was a girl who was seemingly flirting with both me and my best friend. After a night out, I took her home, and I was drunk enough to have the courage to simply ask her what was up with her flirting with both of us. She straight up said that she was flirting with me just for fun, and flirting with my best friend because he is awkward in a cute way. She wanted to see how far she would have to go to get him to ask her out. Mind you, she wasn't into him and had no intention of accepting the date. She just wanted to see for herself. I told my friend on the way home, and we both agreed to cut contact. I met a cute girl at a university party. We hit it off pretty well and agreed to meet again at the next party a week later. The next party comes, we chat a little, and she tells me how right after I left last week, she ran into her ex, and they hooked up. To me, that was a pretty clear indication that we weren't on the same page, so I kind of left it at that. Story 6. I genuinely thought she was out of my league. I stopped texting her because I felt it was never going to work. I spoke to her again a couple of years later, and she told me she really was into me. I never felt more stupid in my life. Story 7. Turns out she only liked me because of my rich family. The girl wanted a free ride and an easy life. We were talking on the phone, and she said this 3 days ago, last Friday. "I want a really rich man like you, so I can pursue my passions and interests while you work." I laughed, ended the call, and blocked her all in the span of 5 seconds. Now she's been calling me nonstop for the last 3 days. Story 8. Because she looked at me like I was a thing instead of a person. Her feelings mattered, but mine never did. It was always her going through something or her forgetting to hit the send button when we were texting, or I was the one who was doing too much and she didn't have energy for it. The only time she ever wanted to hang out was because she felt guilty for acting like a jerk. Tired of it. Story 9. The space cleared up in your head once you move the F. On is a relieving feeling. It's crazy how much mental effort is put into liking someone for so long and then realizing we are just not going to happen and truly isn't worth the effort. Story 10. She didn't show interest or appreciation. I am over the idea that dating is a one-way process where you persevere like you have some obsessive behavior and then in the end you get your reward. I know women have a mouth, a brain, and are perfectly capable of going after the man they want, if they want him. The rest are just girls role-playing their own scenario with themselves in the whimsical predicament of choosing their best man while also having fun. Be the fun, be the mistake they make while waiting for the right man to want her enough to make an effort. But never go after a girl who thinks she needs to be one. Those are the people that are passive and project everything onto others. Those are the people that can't support themselves, can't communicate their feelings clearly, cannot compromise, and don't think they should do any emotional work for their partner's sake. The girls that pressure relationships out of you because it fits their script. Then just move the goalpost even further and write the sequel to their life without your input. And worst of all, those are the women that treat intimacy as a reward. It ended up sounding critical, but it genuinely isn't. And here's why. There's plenty of proactive women that outshine these insecure, immature girls. The world is full of women. Women that, like men, want to show their love to men as their love language. And no, before the critics jump up, I am not talking about fake traditional wives. Those are the same girls as listed above. Their script just sounds like it also has a place for a man's feelings. Doesn't. I am talking about the most relaxed women that don't go out of their way to stand out, are genuinely respectful and considerate because they were raised right and had a respectful male role model to mold the concept of a man around something more than fear-driven content. Have a conversation with them. You'll find they are quite reasonable, and if you're honest with them, they will reciprocate. You need to also be a functioning adult for this and not complain when she says she is an independent woman that pays taxes and has a mortgage like an adult. Story 11. Not ghost, but didn't pursue it for many reasons. She was very religious, and for me to get with her I would have to convert, plus have her father's approval. It was too tough to match with. I could not see myself committing to religion because I grew up being an atheist. Story 12. Started living together, and she decided that shouting at me and going around in circles during arguments was a decent way to spend time. So I asked her to leave and then moved out myself. Story 13. She went through my Facebook friends and pinpointed a girl I went to high school with who turned out to be an adult entertainer. Since I had her private personal friends profile, I was immediately being attacked for visiting strip clubs. When I asked what she's basing her thoughts on, she told me I was friends with a stripper. Ridiculous. Extra large red flag. Story 14. She said things that suggested she was a bad person. I have since been proven right several times, and I got away with that without scars or mental issues, so that's a result, really. Story 15. She had zero empathy towards animals. I do not tolerate that nonsense. I get it if you aren't a big fan of animals, but to stop another person from helping a starving animal because it's a waste of time, let nature take its course. You are an absolute fool. Story 16. I liked her in the beginning because we had similar interests, and she was pretty fun to chat with. After a while, she started being very childish about me not responding for a couple of hours or sometimes a day. She was a couple of years younger than me, but at that point, she started being very childish about a lot of stuff, which instantly took away all my interest. Story 17. She kept saying generalized misandry-like statements such as, all men are trash, the world would be better without men. A woman can do things better than any man could, and would always end with, oh, but not you, you're a good one. You get the gist. She had a great heart, but her life choices led her down a path of easily letting bad men have a drastic effect on her life, with 2 children from 2 fathers. Oh, and she gave me herpes. Story 18. I realized that our values and long-term goals did not align. As much as I was initially attracted to her, I started noticing fundamental differences in how we viewed important life decisions, and I could not see a future together. Instead of having a difficult conversation, I took the cowardly way out and disappeared, which I now regret. Communication would have been the better and more respectful approach. Story 19. It is crazy reading these as a girl, and many of these experiences are ones I have had with men. I did not realize it happened both ways and was definitely ignorant of that fact. Story 20. Thought she was into me like I was into her, but it just turned out she needed my money. To be 100% sure she never loved me, I faked being broke and watched as she went crazy, complaining about her hardship. She was born richer than me, and needing a man who can support her and take care of her needs. After all that, I left her and continued on with my life. Story 21. I found someone who was more interesting and more my type. I regret it because she deserved better, and I truly hope she is happy now. I accept that I was rude. Story 22. She would call me drunk at 4 a.m., acting insecure and needing affirmations. I was probably still awake playing video games, but she didn't know that. We weren't even official yet. Story 23. She started sleeping with her drug dealer to support her habit. She actually tried to defend it by saying that she wasn't dating them, just having sex with them. Story 24. We were on our second date, and she threw out a piece of trash while I was driving. When I asked her to stop because I have a trash can in my car, she did it again. Story 25. Didn't seem interested in me, so I didn't waste my time after. I understand playing hard to get, and I found out a few women were genuinely still interested, but they wanted me to make a communication move first after a date I just paid for. I figured after I said, "Let me know when you are free to do this again," that they would let me know. Apparently, being direct with someone and treating it like a game of who's going to ask first was more important, which is how I knew they weren't a fit. I value simplicity and directness. All the other stuff is a breeding ground for unnecessary drama because at that point, if I don't meet a certain expectation they had in their own head, it ends. Story 26. She told me she was married and her husband is in jail. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not dating a married person. That's messed up. That's a line I don't cross. I don't do that. It's morally reprehensible in my opinion. So I stopped communicating with her. Story 27. We hit it off over Hinge, flirted and joked for 2 weeks. But on the first date, I saw that her pictures were from several years ago. I'm going to be honest and say she gained weight since then. But the real kicker was she brought up polarizing political topics and wanted to debate. I'm all for a philosophical discussion on a first date, but not a debate. There's a difference. Story 28. She brought her brother and his girlfriend on our first date, presumably thinking I'd be cool with it because I knew her from the bar where I used to work as a bouncer, and they were regulars. Suffice it to say, I went to the bathroom and didn't come back. Story 29. I found my girl, but when I was dating it was pretty simple. I either got bored of her or she showed incompatibility or red flags. I'm not the type to chase a girl. If one of us isn't interested, I just move on. There are plenty of fish in the sea. It worked out pretty well for me. Story 31. Realizing it is too much effort for not enough return. Return could be a number of different reasons or a combination of reasons for my past. Waiting or no sex, the woman needs to be entertained constantly. Her expectations of what is romantic are out of alignment with mine. She lives too far and does not drive. She is hard to schedule and book for a date. 2. Hygiene issues. 3. She is fine with littering. 4. She treats people around her poorly. 5. Talks negatively about her exes a bit too much. 6. Has many male friends. 7. The intimacy was mediocre for me, or I get the feeling she is really not that into me physically. Story 31. Low effort. Did not ask any questions about me the entire date. No manners, general comments about how bad dating has been for her. Did not look like her pictures. Social media addiction. Found out she has kids. Found out she is not in a place to have a relationship. I think that is it. Story 32. I've never done that. It's inconsiderate and horrible to not give someone closure. All it takes is a little bit of effort and consideration to not be a scared little child. Takes nothing to be kind. Even if you are not interested, be kind. Story 33. After some time thinking, I realized I didn't really like her as a person and just wanted to have sex with her very much. She had perky D cups, and I went completely stupid. Story 34. Not ghosted exactly, but fell out of contact. Met her on Quora, and we talked for a while, but things eventually fizzled out. I still wish we had kept in contact, to be honest, but the reason we fell out of contact was because, despite the fact that I thought she was cute and interesting, she was in Australia and I am in the United States. On top of that, I just wasn't in the right mindset for a relationship yet because I had only just been dumped that year. It just wasn't ever going to work, and even now, like 5 years later, I still wish things had been different. She was awesome to talk to, but even with my feelings on the matter, I don't know if she was even interested at the time. Story 35. She was in another talking stage with 2 different guys. She actually had plans to go out with one the day after I had a date planned with her. Her friend, who I'm friends with through her boyfriend, told me she was trying to explore all her options before picking one. I told her I wouldn't be able to make the date, gave her a half-made-up excuse, and never talked to her again. She and the guy she ended up with only lasted for about 3 weeks anyway. Story 36. Well, I was seeing 2 girls at the same time. I really liked both of them, so I didn't really know what to do. I had a long conversation with my best friend about both of them and narrowed it down. I blocked the other girl so I wouldn't be distracted. I felt really bad, but the girl I didn't block ended up being the one, and we've been married for 5 years now, so it worked out. I definitely could have gone about it in a different way. The other girl was incredibly sweet and deserved way more than that. Story 37. She had no consideration for anyone other than her own family and culture, and I came from a different culture. Apart from that, she was a wonderful and fun person to be with. Story 38. Only time I have ever done it was once in my early 20s in college. I had seen the girl a few times, and we had hung out at the house I was living in once, so she knew where I lived. I told her I was just going out with some friends one night, and she proceeded to just show up at my place after I told her that and invited herself along. It was really off-putting and rubbed me the wrong way, and I stopped responding to her after that. I later felt really bad about it and wished I had been direct with her instead of ghosting. I have been on the receiving end of ghosting since then, so I know how it feels, and I would not do that to anyone again.